please do not pull for the new Super Sugofest Shanks. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's One Piece Treasure Cruise video we have to talk about the new Super Sugo Shanks because he is not what we thought he was going to be. In my opinion, if there is not a bug going on with him, he is pretty bad, especially for a Super Sugofest. Let's jump into his super type. That is the factor that makes you want to pull for him, that makes him a unique character. Supposedly, he should have been able to turn any type of unit into strength, except of course if they have super type. So if the enemies have super type like they do in Super Kizuna or in some Garb challenges in the final bosses, he cannot activate his super type. He can, but the second part of it won't of course take effect. That's not the case, because Shanks does not go through immunity. So if the enemy has full immunity, he also cannot activate the second part of his super type ability. And this is either not working as intended and it is a bug or something, because this is the first time we see it and they messed up something, or this is working as intended and the super type special wording is completely wrong. Because if we just read this, after the color affinity boost, he makes enemies into strength type for one turn and cannot change a super type enemy. So I thought about it. I was absolutely fine when we talked in the breakdown video with him having a limit to super type enemies, to not be overpowered, not take over everything, not be able to of course clear every super boss in Kizuna by changing them to strength, whatever their color might be. I thought it was absolutely fair. But now he cannot go through immunity. Everything has immunity in the game. Arena has immunity, Raids have immunity, normal Kizuna has immunity, not even discussing of course the super bosses. If they wanted it to be like this, that's fine, but the wording is absolutely atrocious. Let me get this straight. You say a unit does something and you have an exception in parentheses, but then there is more to that exception that is not stated in the super type special wording. This makes no sense to me. Just also say that except if enemy has super type or immunity. Simple as that. Because now let's visit some other units and see how they work. Because in my opinion, after the full immunity changes that Bandai applied to the game, their wording is really inconsistent in specials. Or someone can say the wording is consistent, but the way they present new effects added to the game is not consistent or clear to the players at all. To make my point more clear, let's visit some units. First of all, V2 Chopper. Another unit that was released during the One Piece Film Red collaboration Super Sugofest chain in the first part with Uta, and his special, after the Bind and Despair effect, right in the middle states the following. Applies minus 50% cerebral resistance to all enemies for one turn. Nowhere in the special you can read the entire thing does it state that this effect goes through immunity, which technically by Super Sugofest Shanks standards it shouldn't, but it does. Cerebral resistance reduction is still a debuff applied to the enemy, and technically immunity should prevent you from applying debuffs to the enemy, right? Well, in the resistance reduction part, it's wrong, because resistances do not care about immunity. The Kinemon Denjiro swap doesn't, the Chopper special doesn't, all of the Sailor abilities that actually can apply resistance do not care about immunity either. When the resistance reduction mechanic was first introduced in the game, there was no notification, announcement, post or explanation from Bandai that this mechanic does not care about immunity. While keeping this in mind, let's visit some other units, starting with Super Sugofest Law. You can read in the bottom part of his special that he can apply increased damage taken, ignoring immunity to status effects. And the same goes for Super Tandem Kaido, who was introduced in the anniversary. If we go to his captain ability, he can apply increased damage taken, ignoring immunity to status effects right there in parentheses. Then if we visit Yamato, she can also apply increased damage taken to the enemy, either version of Yamato, but nowhere in her special does it state that she can ignore immunity. What does that mean? That tells me that everything in the game that does not specifically state that it ignores immunity does not ignore immunity. We're perfect here, right? This is a very good consistency in your specials. Because, for example, when Super Tandem Law came out, and I read his captain ability, where if he has a QTND or Wayno slot, he can set all enemies' defense to 0, never for a second did I think that he goes through immunity. Same with Summer, Sanji and Zoro. They can apply increased damage taken, but we did not assume they can go through immunity because the special did not state it. Now you might be thinking, okay, so what's your point? Shanks does not state he goes through immunity either, and he doesn't. So what is the problem here? The problem is that from one hand we have increased damage taken, that the descriptions are very clear, and then resistance reduction is introduced, and it can go through immunity without stating it in any ability description. So how are we as players supposed to know when a unique new effect comes out if it goes through immunity or not if it doesn't state it in the special? Because now we are in a situation with Shanks where it does not state it goes through immunity, so we shouldn't really assume it, but at the same time he has an exception in parentheses, and that exception only states that he cannot change super type enemies. What are we supposed to think? Are we supposed to think that this works like the increased damage taken descriptions? Or are we supposed to think that because there is an exception in parentheses, that it probably works like resistances where it ignores immunity? I saw no one, by the way, no one in the player base mentioned that he's not going to go through immunity, so I think majority of the player base thought the exact same thing I thought, and that's why I said he's broken, but apparently he's not only not broken, he's also pretty bad. I am not campaigning for Bandai to change this. By the way, this is not a problem in my opinion. If they want their character to behave that way, that's fine, I'm not gonna pull for him. But the thing is, you need to not be misleading and be consistent with your descriptions for abilities. If you want every debuff when introduced to be assumed to not go through immunity except if stated otherwise, change every resistance reduction description to state that it goes through immunity, or make an announcement of some sort when a new debuff is coming out to state that every time you see this debuff it goes through immunity. Or maybe resistance reduction does not count as a debuff to the enemy, hence why it can go through immunity. But even if that is the case, how are we as players supposed to know if this new mechanic of changing colors counts as a debuff to the enemy or not? Overall, this is a very bad situation. If the unit is bugged, it will definitely be fixed though, do not worry. If the unit is working as intended though, I really do not know if we are about to get gem refunds or compensations. Definitely whatever you do, if you haven't pulled, do not just pull hoping for a compensation afterwards or a refund. Do not do that. This is not like the Sugar and Smoker Sugofest situation where other units were displayed in the banner image and other units were actually available in the Sugofest itself. That was false advertising, and that's why everyone got their gems refunded. Is this false advertising? I don't really know. Yes, it is unclear and can be considered misleading, the super type special description, but they technically never said it goes through immunity, so I don't think it is false advertising. I'm not really certain on this situation. You can definitely submit a support ticket if you pulled for Shanks thinking he does something that he doesn't actually do, and state that the description of the super type special is unclear and misled you to think something that was not true. You can definitely do that through the app. Even that way, I don't know if anything will come out of it, but it is worth a try at least. I really hope and I really want to see some form of communication and Bandai addressing this issue, because this is a very messy situation. They should either fix the unit, fix the description of the unit, or at least say something. I don't know. I would just advise you to not pull for Shanks until the situation is cleared up. That's all I had to say though. Tell me in the comments down below your opinion on the whole mess, and as always, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.